up, you guys? Rasati out here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining me back on my podcast, the Night Owl Podcast. I actually really enjoy talking to you guys. I don't know if you realize this or not, but I have my notes out with me. I'm looking through the things that I've been experiencing and thinking about for the past week or so. And honestly, it's been a lot of questions. People are suddenly directing questions at me to kind of find out, well, how did you figure this out? And what did you have to do to kind of get over this? And lately it's been about past relationships. So I kind of want to dig into the fact that right now Mind Valley has a new masterclass about the fact that your next relationship, your newest relationship, always starts with the end of the last relationship. So it's almost like, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. And once it ends, you sort of kind of have to start putting your mind together about, what went wrong in that relationship, what part of it was yours to own, what part of it was nothing to do with you. You kind of had to wait for the other party to kind of get it together, and it maybe didn't happen, and that's why you left. So these are the things that I like to do as far as working through my own traumas, my own troubles. And with my last relationship, obviously it was a marriage. I was with him for almost 8 years, raised 2 stepkids, had my own child, a slew of other interesting, colorful experiences. But the point being that when I finally left, I had to sit down and kind of work through a lot of identity issues. The biggest question I've had recently is, what do I learn? What have I learned from my last relationship? And in order for me to heal and even be ready for a new relationship, if that's even in the cards for me, is to kind of figure out what kind of person I am. I had to go back to the drawing board, y'all, just like I do with all of my clients. And I had to go, all right, well, what do you like? Do you like your eggs sunny side up or scrambled? Do you like it fried? I mean, do you like it the way your husband likes it, or do you have a specific preference that has nothing to do with him? Because what I've started to realize was I was becoming more and more like him, so my life would be easier and simpler. It was less for me to remember. It was almost like I aligned myself with who he was, his dreams, his goals, his wants, his needs, all of that, because I wanted so badly to fulfill a piece of advice that my mom had given me, which was, if you are everything that he needs, he has no reason to step out on you. Okay, so that's one of those old inundated beliefs that was passed down from my mom. And I didn't realize how much did it hit me until I started trying to figure out who I was, what I was without this man in my life, without the relationship itself defining me, and what did I want for my own life. And honestly, like I said, I had to go back to the drawing board. So it came down to little things like, do I have a favorite food? Do I have a specific way I like to eat my eggs? Do I have a favorite thing I like to cook? Or is it always, what the kids like, what the husband likes? What is the easiest thing to make so that it lasts for a long time? What is it that I actually like to cook if money was not an issue and time wasn't an issue and energy wasn't an issue? I had no idea, honestly. And what I realized was my last relationship taught me that I give in too easily because I put my connections first. I am a number one need for, human connection. And second need is, what is my second need? Second need is stability. So I'll do whatever I can to make sure that there is someone around, and I'll do whatever I can to make sure that someone is happy, because I don't want any conflict in my life. As much as I am a strategic interventionist and I'm really good at conflict resolution, I don't like being in conflict. So what I'll do is try to avoid it altogether, which isn't always healthy either, because if I'm trying to avoid it, it means I'm not actually standing up for myself and not necessarily telling the other person that they're hurting me or making me uncomfortable by the things that they're doing. So I'm not very vocal, or I'm coming off as codependent, basically. So I was having a lot of issues with that. And I was trying really hard to kind of figure out what it was that I was giving up and why it was that I was giving these things up, because it was like months after I left him. And honestly, I left him in the US. I came back to Singapore, which is halfway around the world, y'all. And I would go grocery shopping and find myself, oh my gosh, we need he would love this. I should buy this. And I'm thinking, I'm not with him no more. I need to change the way I do things. And it was little pieces like that that I really had to put together. This is also the reason why I tell a lot of clients that if they're going through a breakup, they need to take some time for themselves. They need to have a rest period, lick your wounds, kind of look at yourself, see what you like, see what you don't like, go through that little phoenix moment where you decide, you know what, I'm going to revamp this and I'm going to get rid of that and I'm going to cut my hair and I'm going to feel fabulous. I'm going to do something for me all of a sudden. And it's in those moments that you suddenly realize how much of yourself you've given up, how much of your voice you've muted, and how much you were trying really hard to control the relationship by not allowing them to get to know who you are at the core. Now, even to this day, if I was to, let's say, be in a relationship with someone, I am afraid that I might fall into the same patterns. But I also know that if I bring the bricks from the last relationship, I'm going to end up building the same damn house. And I don't want that. I really don't. So what I'm trying really hard to do is to be whole in myself, which ends up being very, very easy when you're by yourself. And it's only until you have the opportunity to be in the next relationship that you really get tested again. Like, are you going to give in again? Or are you going to stand your ground? Are you going to kowtow to this person and make yourself their best friend and their perfect match? Or are you going to be yourself and allow them to choose whether or not they can level up to who you are, or if you're going to dumb yourself down so that they'll accept you? So it's kind of like those moments that are really, really hard to swallow and really, really hard to walk through, because I'm telling you right now, there is no way around it. There's no way under it. There's no way to jump over it, to avoid it. The only way out of your problems is to go through it. So sometimes, as difficult as it may be, you have to put yourself in the same situation. Take the risk again. Take the risk to love one more time and see if you can make it different this time. I've had so many people that come to me and they're like, you know what? I don't want my mom's marriage. I don't want my uncle and aunt's marriage. I don't want my grandparents' marriage. I don't want the fairy tale, the Notebook marriage, because I don't think that exists. It's only written and scripted that way. I want something different, and maybe I don't want marriage at all. Maybe I just want to, hang out with somebody and cohabitate or something. I don't know. But the point being that if you finally know who you are, if you finally know what you like and don't like, if you have the choice to be able to, adjust the things you don't quite like about yourself, as in like put in some hard work and change some habits, right? Or find a way to determine for yourself what you think a marriage should be. I mean, how many of us are given the chance to sit down and daydream what a perfect marriage should be? I had a client the other day and she is having a tough time. She's going through a divorce. And I really am in awe of how she's handling everything, because she is, gosh, she's such a pillar. And I wish you could see the strength that I see in her. And I asked her, do you mind? Like, just have a go at it, write down the things that you think would make a great marriage. And I'm not saying, things you've seen in real life, like ideally, what would it look like to you? And it doesn't have to fit any mold. It doesn't have to be, traditional Indian marriage. The man makes the money, the woman is the home. None of that. Make it up for yourself. Kind of, put yourself out there and dream a little bit. Because you've been through life and you've been through marriage, if I had a chance to dream stuff up, honestly, I think my ideal marriage would be a partnership more than anything else. I want to be best friends with the person that I am married to or spending my life with, if I'm sharing a home with. And I really want to have the kind of relationship where, honestly, if I need to be in my room and recording podcasts and, I can tell you that, hey, I'm going to go record for a second. They know that, okay, for a little while, she's going to be MIA, and I'm okay with that. I need to know that, because my daughter and I are really close. She already knows. If I tell her, hey, I'm going to do some reading for a little bit, do you mind reducing the volume of the TV? She's like, oh, yeah, cool. I'm good. I'll just put the subtitles on and have the volume on low. Like, we have that kind of understanding with me and my daughter. If I were to ever introduce a man in my life, I think that's the kind of relationship I want. I want to have time together, but I definitely need time apart. And I think that's really important in relationships in general, because I think we try too hard to cater, and I think we try too hard to be just entertaining to the other person, and that's not really practical, is it? It's why in quarantine so many people are like freaking out, like, oh my God, I have no space in this house because my husband's home from work. He's working from home now, and I'm working from home, and the kids are home, and holy cow, like there is no space to breathe in here. What the fuck am I gonna do? So these are the things I want to kind of avoid in the future, like. In the event that we go back to a semi kind of normal, right, where everyone goes to work and they come back home to congregate or whatever, in the event that we get used to that and suddenly we get thrown back into a COVID quarantine situation, I don't want us to panic. I want us to know, well, shit, we got that room with a door on it and this room with a door on it. And if I need to go into the room and shut the door and do what I got to do, well, hey, it's not going to be a problem, because at some point, 100 years ago, that's exactly what people did. This is why people were able to get along. This is why people were married for so long. Yeah, they had their fair share of fights and they had their disagreements or whatever, but the way they fixed it, the way they talked it through is very different from what we do now. We expect instant results. We expect for things to change in like the blink of an eye, because emails get sent from one corner of the globe to the other in like milliseconds, right? And it's not like that though. We still have to process our own feelings. We still have to work on, the drama and the trauma and the triggers and, the things that we've experienced before that have caused us pain, but we're trying to desperately to avoid in this current situation. So we have a lot of things to deal with. We have a lot of things to process. So it means that if we have some words that aren't so nice and, I yell at you or you yell at me or whatever, and we got to retreat to our own corners, then that's what we got to do. But at some point, I want the kind of relationship where we've already made the agreement that, yeah, we'll retreat to our own corners. But at some point, I know that in order for me to feel that there's some kind of closure, we need to talk again. And you've told me what it is that you need in order to feel closure as well. So we feel like we actually put this situation to bed. We put it away. We've dealt with it. Not the kind of, knock down, drag out, yelling at each other, screaming kind of situation where we decide to hit below the belt and use our insecurities against each other, only to find out that, you know what, I'm tired of yelling at you and you're tired of yelling at me, and we just want to call it quits right now. This is the end of the conversation. We're not arguing about this shit no more, period. And tomorrow we're going to fake it like it never happened and hope to God that it doesn't pop up again, which we all know it's going to pop up, y'all. Okay? We already know this. But this is where the resentment comes, the bitterness comes, the elephant in the room gets bigger and bigger because we're not sorting through our feelings. We're not actually working on the things that really bother us. Why? Because a part of us is afraid to lose the other person. A part of us is afraid to be offended. A part of us is afraid to have to face those things that caused us pain before in order to truly teach ourselves that that's not the only way it could turn out. But either way, I think every new relationship starts with the ending of the old one. You gotta sort through the details of that relationship. What happened? What worked? What didn't work? What did you like? What did you hate? Why did you hate it? What did it mean to you when it happened? How did it beat you down? Did they beat you down? What words were used? What actions were used? What were you most afraid of? And when we start to unpack all of those things, I feel like we have a chance to redefine ourselves for a new relationship. We get to choose for ourselves what it's going to look like. And yeah, it's easy when we're not in a relationship to decide I'm never going to do this and I will never be in a situation where you can put me out of my house or you can look down your nose at me because I'm not making as much money or whatever the case may be. It's easy when you're single. It's not that easy when you're with somebody. And guess what? Bird in the hand and all of that, we're always afraid to lose what we have. But I really, really believe that working through each of the traumas that we've been through gives us more answers about who we are and what we like and don't like. I really hope you understand where I'm coming from with this, because I really believe that every new beginning starts with some other beginning's end. And if we don't unpack it, it's almost like, okay, let's talk about it in the form of a test, right? I took a test. I failed the test. I got to go back at some point and go look at the questions that I got marked wrong, because lucky for me, somebody marked it wrong. And I got to figure out, well, where did I go wrong? What was the logic I was using? What was the logic that was taught to me? Where did I miss some information? What could I have done better the next time so I make sure that I don't screw it up again? We're good when it's in black and white like that. But guess what? Relationships aren't like that. We're afraid to keep journals because somebody's going to go through the journal. We're afraid to, write down anything with regard to the relationship itself. Right now, people are really good at screenshotting and sending it to everybody, everywhere, all over the place. We're really good at shaming each other when something happens and we're upset about the situation itself. But when do we unpack all the things that went wrong? When do we decide, you know what? It's hard for me to go back in hindsight and remember all the good times because right now I'm angry. And when I'm sad, it's all the good times that I ever think about and I forget all the things that you made me upset for. So how do I unpack all of that? How do I write down all of those things and make sure I understand, hey, you know what? I don't like when this happens. So in the next relationship, I need to make sure that person knows right off the bat, I'm not standing for none of this. I'm not okay with any of this kind of behavior. So this is why I think it's really important. When I saw that question come up and it said, what did you learn from your last relationship? Trust me, I had a lot of stuff I had to unpack from my marriage. I binge watched Scandal. It helped me cry, okay? And if I hadn't been able to cry, I wouldn't have been able to sit down and be calm about looking at all the flaws, all of the pieces that I created and all the pieces he created that didn't fit with each other. The stones we threw at each other, right? The words we used, the behaviors we chose, The things I chose not to tell him because a couple of times when I did tell him, he told me off or he made me feel small and insignificant. And you know what? I was never going to ask him for help again, which also caused more trauma because then he didn't know the plight of our, current state of affairs in the house itself. He didn't realize exactly how much trouble I was having managing the bills. He didn't understand exactly how much I was suffering because all I did was take care of the kids. I didn't have any adult time. I didn't feel like a woman. I felt like a mom. There were a lot of things I did not tell him because I was afraid it would make me look weak. I was afraid that he would use it against me. And in those moments, I know why I did it, but looking back, I shouldn't have. I should have chosen a different path. I should have let him know and then allow him to choose what course of action he was going to use. It's not up to me whether he chooses to take care of me or not, but it is up to me for him to know, to let him know that I need help. And it depends. It really matters how I ask him for help. It really matters how I show up for him. Because I know I screwed up. There were some things I definitely screwed up, and I know there were things that he definitely screwed up. But I don't want to go back and I don't want to fix it. It's too broken that I don't know even where to start. We're too different. So going forward, I have to decide for myself what I will and won't stand for. What's okay, what's not okay. How do I like to be loved? And what doesn't feel like love to me? How should I speak up about these things? How do I talk about my attachment? How do I talk about my abandonment? How do I talk about, what is it that I need to feel important and loved and seen and heard and secure? What are my human needs? All of those things, they really matter. And it's part of the reason that I even chose to start with those two subjects, as in love languages and human needs, for the first month of Dirasati, my private counseling group. Trust me, every new beginning starts with some other beginning's end. And to be very clear, you have to go back and look. You have to go back and look. I'm not talking about pick at the scab and destroy it. I'm talking about look. Look where it was, where on your body it landed. How did it get there? What exactly happened? What did you tell yourself it meant? Because all of that matters. Now, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, think about what I'm saying. You have it in your hands to make or break the next relationship, and it really depends on if you bring the same bricks from the last relationship into the new one. Because if you're not careful, you are in danger of building that same house. So many of us self-sabotage because we're convinced that it can only end one way. They exhibit one small behavior that reminds you of an old trauma, and suddenly you're like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this because I know how this is going to end. I can tell you right now, it's happened before. Yeah, but I'm not that person. And you can't predict my behavior, but you can tell me what you're worried about and we can work on that together. So, like I said, consider what I'm saying. Go back and look at the things that upset you. It's easier in the moment when you have a fight to figure out where the anger came from. What boundary were they pushing? What did you get offended by? Why did you get offended? What does it actually mean to you? And is there another possibility, another explanation for that story? Are you filling in gaps that you really have no business filling? Can you ask somebody to fill in the gaps for you? These are things we need to ask. These are things I'm teaching people to figure out because it's important. And like I said, if you need me, send me a DM, let's talk. Until then, I'll talk to you soon, okay?